Everyone wants a squad, a community of people that cares for us, helps and supports us, and gives us a place to belong. A community that feels like family. That kind of community isn't easy to come by, but it's exactly what Jesus had in mind for his followers nearly 2,000 years ago. The truth is that because we're part of God's family, we can do for others what God has done for us. We can grow and stand strong together.
What's up? How are we? Hey, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like that one, is Cody Grove here? Dude, I feel like every single time I watch that, I'm like, dude, he's gonna pass out. Like, they're legitimately choking him out. I'm sorry. Hey, so, how are you guys doing today? You guys doing good? How's school going? It's all right. Some of you guys love school, some of you guys don't. That's okay. It's all right. Hey, so I gotta tell you this. How many of you guys, like, there's some just weird things that you just, like, love? Is anybody there? I'm gonna share one of them with you. One of the weird things that I love is I love, like, sitting and listening to two people, like, kind of argue in a way. You know what I'm saying? Is anybody else there? Good, I'm not alone. Okay, so, like, for instance, it's like, some topics that I've heard my friends argue about is Chick-fil-A or Popeyes, MJ or LeBron, who is the best player in the NBA, Luka Doncic. Like, that's just my personal opinion. Lincoln's freaking out. We're going to have some counseling later, and we'll show you some stats. And then, okay, so here, listen to this. I was sitting in a library one day, okay? Do I ever sit in a library? No, I don't even know why I was there. But I was with two of my friends, and they're both insanely smart people. Guys, like, insanely smart. Like, one of them legitimately built his own rifle from scratch, and then the other one is working on, like, building, like, a rocket. Okay, so just insanely smart, and I'm just sitting there just like watching it, and they're having this conversation. They were arguing about biotechnology and bioengineering. What about? I have no idea, but it was so fascinating because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have no idea what you just said. You know, like, it was just super, super cool, and that was like the way that their relationship would do. Like, they would tell me like all the time, be like, yeah, we always go out to lunch and like have like 6-hour conversations about the difference between these two. And I'm like, bro, I could barely stand 20 minutes, but you know, that's all right. Like, that's what it is. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about relationships and a little bit about barriers. I want to share a story with you guys about a time that I got into a fight. Okay, is that cool with you guys? Okay, so I have a guy, he's one of my best buds. His name is Noah Hilliard, okay? Now, here's the thing you have to understand about Noah Hilliard. He is legitimately a giant. He is like 6'4", 210 pounds. Like, he's just this massive guy, okay? I'm 5'9", like 180 pounds, okay? So he obviously has an advantage over me. Now, how many of you guys have ever heard of airsoft? You guys know what that is. Some of you guys know what it is. Some of you guys don't. Okay, airsoft is like this thing where you guys can take guns and you take these little plastic BBs. You can go around and you can shoot each other with them and stuff. Now, we would take that up to the next level. And so there's a thing called CO2, which is compressed air. Okay, when you put that into an airsoft gun, it makes it very, very powerful. Like, it can break your skin. What we did is we took that up a notch and we used this thing called green gas. Okay, green gas powers like a lot of different things, but when you put it into an airsoft gun, like, it legitimately will like burst your skin open if you get hit on your skin. Okay, and the rule that we had was, if you bleed, you lose. Okay, so that was basically the gist of it. All right, so here we go. So we were playing one day, okay, and I'm running around with like this little gun about like this big. Okay, it shoots 13 bullets a second. Okay, so you just and it just boom. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, Noah has this shotgun, okay? He had the advantage because here, I'll tell you why. In this one barrel right here, there was 3 smaller barrels, okay? So that means that every single time he fired this gun, it shot 3 bullets, okay? And with this green gas, it just whizzed them out of there. And what he could do is he could literally just hold down the trigger and just spam what you like normally cock it with, and it would just like literally shoot like a machine gun. Now, obviously, because these guns are so powerful, we had a distance rule. Be like, hey, you can't get that close to me because that's dangerous, right? You know, that would make sense. You know, okay, cool, we're all on the same page. So we had this distance rule, and I was playing with him, and I snuck up behind the tree. Okay, so this is the tree here. He's like right over here by this collective sign. Now, this is way too close. Like, our distance was like, hey, maximum or minimum 30 feet apart. Okay, this is not 30 feet apart. But I take my gun, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to laser him. And so I just lay down on this guy, and probably around 70, 78 bullets hit him. I got to do the guy right. So I started at his ankles, went all the way up his back, and then I just focused on his head. So I just drilled the back of his head. He wasn't happy. And, you know, like, you can just imagine why. And so what happened was he turned around, looked at me, took his shotgun out, and just bursted me, like, over and over. I'm like, dude, we're even, like, we're good. He's like, you better not do that again. He used a different word. But he was like, you better not do that again. And so I, like, went up to him and be like, hey, man, I'm so sorry about that. And in myself, I'm, like, furious. Because I'm like, dude, I get that I sprayed you, but at the same time, you also sprayed me back, and so we're even, and so I feel like, personally, you sprayed me a little bit more than I sprayed you, so therefore I should get another shot back at you, right? Like, that's what's going through my head. And I get up to him, like, I give him a handshake and stuff, and as we're walking away, getting back our distance, I run up behind him, and I have a pistol, like, just like, kind of like a satchel in a way, and it just rests right here on my thigh, okay? And it's a green gas pistol as well. It shoots really, really hard. And so what I did was, as he was walking away, I snuck up behind him, lifted up his shirt, took out my pistol, went bop, 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 bop. Okay? Obviously, he starts to bleed really, really bad. Okay? What he does right after that, so if I'm Noah right here, he was like this. He takes his elbow and just goes bang. And my head, obviously, because he's 6'3", like, where his elbows are, that's where my head is at. So naturally, I'm like, you know? And so I'm sitting there, and he whacks me, just straight up whacks me. And you hear loud, like, boom. And he hits my face. He hits my nose. My nose was kind of crooked for a little bit there. Had to realign it and stuff. But, like, just bleeding. I'm, like, bleeding from my nose profusely. And, yeah. But here's the thing. Like, that day, our relationship took a hit. Okay? And what I mean by that is we kind of lost the point of respect for each other in a way, because of what happened during these events. I'm going to continue this story in a little bit here, but speaking about relationships, okay, we as people, we fight, we compare, and sometimes we even stop talking. And I'll tell you this later too, but Noah and I probably, after that moment, probably didn't talk for a whole month to each other, whether that's texting, calling, whatever it was. We took a hit with our relationship. And every relationship has a little bit different things. But I feel like, personally, I don't know what you guys think, but comparison is one of those things that is like huge, and it can really, really destroy people and also the relationship you have with people. Here's the thing. With comparison, if you think about it from like a God's perspective, so everybody go up a level and then up another level, and we're looking at it from a God's perspective, it wouldn't make sense for us to consistently compare each other to us and then, compare this and that and this and that. Because if God created us with a purpose and a plan, why would we question what he's already put inside of us? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would we compare? And in that moment with Noah, I was comparing the amount of shots that he took at me and the amount of shots that I took at him. And so I was comparing that, and you guys know where that led to. Relationships struggle. Sometimes relationships are great. Don't get me wrong. Relationships are great, but sometimes they do struggle. And here's the thing. Relationships have been around for, gosh, I don't know how long. Ever. Can we just say that? Ever. Forever. Here's the thing. If you guys have your Bibles, flip open to Ephesians chapter 2. Okay? If you guys also, really quickly, if you guys don't have a Bible and you want one, come and talk to us. We can get you one. Okay? Now, in Ephesians 2, there's these two people group. the Jews and the Gentiles. Raise your hand if you've ever heard or even just heard the word Jews and Gentiles. Okay, so most of you. That's good. Awesome. So these two people group, Jews and Gentiles. The Jews, literally, like the phrase that goes along with their name is God's chosen people. Now, the word or the phrase that goes along with the Gentiles is everyone who wasn't a Jew. So you guys can see where like the barrier and the division was set there. Now, the thing with these two people groups is they did not like each other whatsoever. And a matter of fact, if you like read throughout the Bible and just read stories, like you can find out that these Jews and Gentiles literally hate each other so much that they would build up barriers physically and then also relationally with their people group. They would also like notice it like, so like for instance, if I was a Jew and you guys were Gentiles, like we would not be in the same area because that's just how much they dislike each other. Now, like I said, if we go back up to the God vision here and we look down there and Jesus sees this, obviously Jesus didn't create us to be divided. And so it broke Jesus' heart. And Jesus was obviously like, hey, like I need to do something about this. If you guys look at verse 14 through 18, this is what Jesus did. It said, "For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups, sorry, let me start over. You know, you guys ever just read and you just mess up? Yeah. You guys don't? Oh my gosh, thank you, yeah. Oh, reading out loud is difficult. All right, we're going to start over. Verse 14 says, "For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by setting aside his flesh, the law, its commands, and regulations. His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity out of two, thus making peace, and in one body to reconcile both of them to God through the cross, by which he put to death their hostility. He came and preached peace to you who were far away, and peace to those who were near." Verse 18, For through him we both have access to the Father by one Spirit." And so if you guys see that, obviously Jesus sees the Jews and the Gentiles, and they're staying away from each other, they're bickering with each other, they're fighting each other, and Jesus just wants peace. Can you guys say peace? Peace. Say it again. Peace. Jesus didn't and still doesn't want division or barriers to block us from having relationships with other people and with God himself. God built us for community, to be together and have relationships with others. Now, obviously, God, like I just said, God built us for relationships to have with others. And Noah and I, going back to that story, Noah and I obviously took a big hit that day. And what happened is after that month kind of passed and like throughout those first couple of weeks, our relationship got even worse. I feel like, I don't know if you guys can relate to that or not, but one of these times I was like, you know what, like I just need to fix this. Because obviously like this guy has meant a lot in my life. He's been there for me. I've been there for him. We've leaned on each other. He's leaned on me. And so one of these days, I grabbed my phone, called him up, and I was like, hey, bro, like, let's talk. And in me, I'm like, do I want to make this call? No. Should I make this call? Yeah, I should. So I called him, and the first thing that he said back to me was like, hey, man, I'm so sorry for, like, he said lighting me up. And so he's like, hey, I'm so sorry for, like, lighting you up and causing you all that pain. And the crazy thing was, going back a little bit, the crazy thing was, the thing that, okay, hold on, I gotta say this right. The thing that I didn't tell you guys, after he whacked me like that, I went and I fell on the ground, because that was a huge force, okay? And as I was laying on the ground, he like stepped over me, okay? And was like ready just to bang, bang, bang. But what he didn't do is I could see it in his eyes. He was like, I still have a little bit of respect for you. And he walked away. And that's the picture that I will never forget in my mind. Did he have the full right to do that? 100%. Did I deserve it? Probably. But in that moment, I knew that when I called him in the future, I could talk with him because I knew that he still had respect for me. Here's the thing. We can do for others what God has done for us. And here's what I mean by that. Think about all the things that God has given you. Maybe it's physically, spiritually, emotionally, relationally. But also think about some other things like grace, forgiveness, mercy. If we're in that position where I was laying on the ground and that's all of us and Jesus was standing on top of us, and he's going to walk away and help us up, that's probably what we should do with other people. Now, obviously, I don't know everybody's current relationship with your friends, family, teachers, pastors, whatever it might be. You might have some rough relationships in your life right now. And sometimes people hurt you. That's part of relationships. Have I had people hurt me in the past? 100%. How many of you guys, if you guys want to, how many of you guys have been deeply wounded by somebody in your past or current day? Now everybody look around the room. You guys see how many hands are raised? So you guys see that sometimes we feel like we're the only one who's been hurt and wounded, but yet, as you see, we're not alone in that. Can I ask you guys an honest question? Yes or no? Yes. Cool. Right now, don't raise your hand. I just want you guys to think about it. Is there a division or a barrier that is in your life right now, either that's between your mom, your dad, brother, sister, whatever it might be, teacher, school, pastor, or even God himself? I just want you guys to think about that. As I was studying this, I was thinking about different things that could block us from growing that relationship, fixing that relationship, mending that relationship. And these ones are specifically towards God. Maybe it's, I dropped that one. Maybe it's afraid to change. Okay? Maybe it's afraid to change. Maybe you're just fearful. Maybe you're just fearful of what's going to happen next. Or if I do go all in on this, what is that going to look like? Maybe you're afraid. Maybe you're afraid, honestly, of what your friends will think. Who knows? For some of you, it might be a risk. It might be a risk to take that next step. It might be a risk to invite somebody outside of your normal friend group or invite somebody in your friend group to come to church. It might be a risk. You might lose something. Is that a risk you're willing to take? For some of you, maybe it's, I'm too comfortable where I'm at. For some of you, like, hey, I got friends, I have a great family, I'm good. Why would I move? Maybe that's you. Or maybe you sit in this category of, I don't know, or I don't know enough. I cannot tell you guys the amount of times that I've had conversations with people where they're like, yeah, I follow Jesus, I love Jesus, but I like where I'm at, and that's where they're sitting, and they're too comfortable, but also they're like, I can't move up because I don't know enough. That can be kind of a scary place to be sometimes, when you don't know enough and you have to trust. Or some of you sit scared of what my friends will say, scared of what my parents will say. There's all these different kinds of barriers, and here's the thing. When you add them all up, they create a wall. You guys see that? Pretend there's just two people right here. Okay, it creates this wall. And in order to take those down, we need to, one, recognize them, but then two, act upon them. So tonight, as the band is coming back out, you guys can see that there is a bunch of Jenga blocks here, okay? Now, here's what I would love, okay? I would love for you guys all just to take a moment, take a second, and really, really, really think about your relationship with Jesus and what that looks like. One of the things that I asked some of my small groups, I said, hey, how would you rate your relationship with Jesus right now? 1 through 10. 10 being great. And then after they answer that, I flip it on its head. How would God rate your relationship with you right now? For some of you, maybe you only talk to him on Wednesdays and Sundays. And maybe your next step would be, hey, I'm going to talk to him on Tuesday or Monday or whatever that might be. I'll be honest and say, I fit into this category, fearful. Here's what I mean by that. For some reason, there's a part of me that hates to fail. Is anybody out there? I hate to fail. Yeah. Okay, so you guys can relate. So here's the thing. I hate to fail, and I'm fearful of failure. And what that means is, if Jesus calls me to do something, I always question it because I'm like, man, if it fails, I'm going to look dumb. It's not going to be good, and it's going to be really, really bad. That is my biggest barrier that sits in my relationship, not only with other people, but also with God himself. And so here's what I want to do tonight. If you guys want to, and leaders, please, trust me, you guys fit into these barriers as well. Everybody does. So there's a bunch of, we're going to call them barriers here, okay? What I would love for you guys to do is just to take an honest moment with yourself and figure out what is your barrier with God. And then when you think that you have that, I would love for you to come up here. There's Sharpies and a block. You can write it on the block, and then I want you to hold on to that block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one that I wrote fearful on, and I'm going to keep it in my backpack, in my car, wherever I go, and it's just a reminder that I know that God is with me. I don't have to be afraid. You know what? So, I'm going to read you guys this verse because I think it just sums up this whole thing so importantly. We don't just go through these barriers separately. We go through them together as a family. And if you look in verses 19 through 22, it says this, of Ephesians chapter 2, it says, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and also members of his household, built on a foundation of the apostles and prophets with Christ Jesus himself as the chief cornerstone. In him, the whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple in the Lord. And in him, you too are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. Here's the thing. I've overcome many, many of these barriers. And what I've noticed in my life, it does this. It starts out where it's a giant tower and I feel like I can't climb it over, I can't get over it. But then as soon as I conquer that, they become stepping stones. Okay? Obviously, this is a really bad example, but they become stepping stones, and now I can step on that, and I can get to the next one, into the next one, into the next one, into the next one.